Well, a new White House report finds economic cyber espionage is on the rise, pointing the finger at China as the biggest culprit. Beijing says the study is, quote, groundless, but now a cybersecurity firm says that it has tracked the source of several attacks, including against the U.S. government, to a single Chinese government building outside Shanghai, housing a secret military unit. So, with both private and public institutions allegedly under cyber assault, are Chinese hackers our newest national security threat? Joining me now is Christian Whiton. He is a former State Department senior advisor and a principal at D.C. International Advisory. Thank you so much for joining us.
Heather, great to be here.
So how big is this threat to our national security, and does this really amount to, electrical weapons of mass destruction?
Yeah, it's a big threat. It's not a new threat. Basically, China is just updating for the 21st century things that U.S. adversaries have always done, basically espionage and sabotage. In times of relative peace, our adversaries try and steal our secrets using espionage, not just national security secrets, but also trade and economic ones. And then there's the sabotage part. Basically, what China is preparing to do, or wants to be prepared to do, is to inflict a 21st century Pearl Harbor on us at a time of their choosing. The problem with the report that's out from the White House is it's a bit of an exercise in stating the obvious, and also a bit of the fine Washington tradition of covering one's posterior without actually recommending a course of action.
Well, and Christian, I also want to talk about this report that came out by this cybersecurity firm, Mandiant, I think is how you say it. It focused primarily on state-sponsored thievery of proprietary data, but in the report, it was about 76 pages long, I think. It also mentioned, almost in passing, the penetration of American energy structures, specifically our aging electrical grid.
That's right. What that really is, it's true. The Chinese would most like to target in a sabotage attack, if you will, U.S. critical infrastructure. So what's the worst case scenario? Well, the lights could go out, which means 911 calls would not get answered, which means banks would close, ATMs wouldn't work, critical services, first responders wouldn't be able to know where to go or be called upon, food services wouldn't be delivered, you couldn't lift gasoline out of tanks at pumps, things like that. So really a potentially devastating attack if it could work, and we've seen the potential of this, frankly, in Iran, where allied efforts to set back that nuclear program have really been quite effective. So this is a very real threat. And the question is how we're going to address it. Is it going to be purely defensive, trying to harden networks here in the U.S., or are we going to go on the offensive and make it known to people like the People Liberation Army, the Chinese army, that there's a consequence to doing this to the United States?
And Christian, you mentioned the White House not really saying what they're going to do. Just very quickly as we wrap up, what do you think they should do?
Well, I would go on the offensive. The problem with the President's State of the Union remarks on cybersecurity and the executive order he issued is that it doesn't mention the Chinese and doesn't mention U.S. Cyber Command. Instead, it looked like an exercise in giving more and more power to the Department of Homeland Security, not the Energy Department, but the bureaucrats and pork dispensers at DHS. We need Cyber Command to be in charge of this, and we need a code of conduct where the Chinese realize if they steal our secrets and if they probe us for a possible attack, then we'll do the same in kind. And last but not least, we need the federal government to stop letting Chinese companies acquire U.S. companies that have sensitive technology.
And basically, call a spade a spade. If China's the one doing it, then, do something about it. Thank you. Christian Whiton, we appreciate it. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Good to have his insights on that as well. Christian's very adept in studying those situations that affect us overseas. That will do it for us. Cavuto on Business starts next.